thank you all for coming down to Rheaply. This is amazing.
We're so
Thank you for
excited to
having
be
us.
here.
Excited. Yeah, so maybe what we'll do is we'll just go around the horn, let everybody know who we're talking with, kind of what you do, what's your why, what's your organization's why, and we'll start there. So Caitlin, want to kick us off?
All right. It's a lot of pressure for me to get United Way right in this
Of course.
show. So I'm Caitlin Klosser, the Director of Partner Engagement at United Way of Metro Chicago. And United Way of Metro Chicago is really all about supporting our communities, supporting our neighborhoods. So we're thrilled to be here as a partner in getting reuse materials out to our partners.
Awesome. Roy.
Hi, I'm Roy. I am a corporate engagement manager for United Way of Metro Chicago. I am in the resource development department, which is the fundraising arm of United Way. So we work with partners like Nicor Gas to raise funds for the community and bring those resources and funds where they're needed the most.
Very important role, for sure.
Definitely, no pressure.
And Mina.
Yes, I'm Mina Byers. I'm Vice President of Business and Community Development at Nicor Gas. We serve 2.2 million customers across northern Illinois. We deliver the energy that's foundational for homes to stay warm, businesses to thrive, and to really fuel our economy. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming down. Super excited to kind of kick off this conversation. And the way that I'm thinking about framing it is kind of, what are you organizations doing already kind of in the sustainability realm, thinking about some of your community goals? And I know that we are all working together and kind of how Rheaply intersects with that. So maybe I'll start off with Mina, and tell me a little bit about kind of what the Rheaply partnership means to Nicor.
Absolutely. So I remember we met at the Chicago Venture Summit.
Yes.
Where you were doing a keynote address about circularity.
Yes.
And I remember sitting at that time and thinking how aligned we are in that mission, because, you know, at Nicor Gas, we know that we deliver the fuel that is foundational to our clean energy goals. And a big part of what we're doing to work towards net zero is looking across the value stream, upstream from where we're sourcing gas, in our operations to reduce methane, and then also solutions for our end use customers. And some of the things that we're exploring are leadership in renewable natural gas, which is taking waste and turning it into a fuel that, you know, can fuel all these customers and replace geologic gas. So in that, I just thought there was so much alignment, and the team got really, really excited to partner with Rheaply. So I think for us, it's not just a way to connect businesses and our nonprofit community, but it's a way to also support diverse business that's in our state, support a thriving economy, and incorporate some innovation into our sustainable practices.
Yeah, and maybe, Roy, if you could talk a little bit about, from a United Way perspective, some of the ongoing relationships you've already had with Nicor Gas.
Oh, I mean, where do I start? Nicor Gas has always been one of our top corporate partners, working with us to really be the backbone of our fundraising around the greater Chicago region, but also through our Neighborhood Networks initiative, where we take a more place-based, hyper-focused approach, looking at specific zip codes that see a lot of the large disparities in our city from wealth, life expectancy, access to jobs, and better education. And so without Nicor Gas, we would not be able to fund a lot of those programs that we see in those neighborhoods throughout the city and suburbs of Chicago.
Awesome. And for people who might not be super aware, Caitlin, if you could take us a little bit into United Way Chicago, kind of how many of the organizations are you helping and serving? Kind of what is some of the why and purpose and mission around that?
Absolutely. So United Way of Metro Chicago, like I said, is really about supporting our communities and our neighborhoods. So we have kind of two different initiatives. One is our, which Roy mentioned, our Neighborhood Network initiative, which is a place-based collective impact strategy. We're in 13 communities around the Chicagoland region. And what United Way does is we come in and kind of support these on-the-ground grassroots organizations in helping them build coalitions of partners to help them achieve the goals that they have for their communities. So we're alongside as a partner. It's really driven by the communities and the leaders in these communities themselves. And then our other work is to support basic needs across the Chicagoland region. So we have 150 agency partners that we support through that work across the region as well.
Wow. That's incredible. And so, from a Nicor perspective and your 2.2 million customers, and from what you're all doing at the community level, what I'm hearing is community engagement. that both organizations are super kind of poised and at the kind of ground zero of how do we get value flow from the haves, quite frankly, or the affluent or the surpluses to folks in our community who actually really need it, who are actually also customers of Nicor.
Absolutely.
So,
And employees,
yeah,
it's employee engagement
exactly.
too. We have 2,000 employees in Illinois. Many of them have been supported by United Way in various ways. It's through the various challenges that they've faced throughout their lives. And so, our employees give very generously. I mentioned this is, we were talking earlier about this is our campaign month for our employee campaign. So we're seeing a lot of Roy this month. And he just met Saturday night with us at our Family Fest. And, our CEO, Wendell Dallas, is the 2022 to 23 campaign chair. So it is, we're so proud that our employees give generously because they are customers too.
Yes.
And they need those benefits too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an important thing that I've heard Mark Benioff at Salesforce talk a lot about, which is this kind of stakeholder capitalism, that you really have to think about not just your customers, but your own people and about the community in which your businesses operate and how it affects it. And really, as a company, doing the best by all of your stakeholders. And that's what I really love about both this month and the push, but also just in general, like how you all have been already working. And I wonder, as you all think about kind of some of the initial work that Rheaply is doing, how that might make more robust or enable even further partnership within the community. Maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, so originally when we talked to the Rheaply team about the possibilities of using the platform and partnering, we really envisioned building a community or like an exchange market or something for our customer base. We serve those 2.2 million customers, about 200,000 of them are commercial customers, commercial industrial customers, so a huge base. And we sort of thought, what a great way to engage with those customers and have a B2B relationship where we're sort of giving them some added value. Yes, we deliver your energy, but we are also here to help you meet your sustainability goals. And here's a way that you can incorporate that or institutionalize, operationalize that in your business. And then we started thinking, okay, well, we also have this very robust energy efficiency program, and we have contractors taking equipment out of homes every day. And what are they doing with that? And could they be utilizing it? And then we thought, oh, goodness, like we have a nonprofit network of, 300 plus.
Right.
And how could they benefit from the exchange and all these businesses getting involved in it? So, that was the initial idea, was to like really build this ecosystem of exchange that we could help facilitate and bring, because we do connect all these customers together. Of course, the team, told us, okay, that's great, and the way to start is by getting on the platform and trying it out. So that's where we are today. That's where we are today, and we're loving the pilot stage.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I think that, I started Rheaply in the lab, literally, right? So in the research lab at Northwestern, thinking about how do we share resources among faculty members at a R1 university. How can we stretch the taxpayers' dollars so that we can do more research to discover more, hopefully, curative therapeutics. I never thought about energy and utilities as a central player, but now that I've learned a lot about Nicor's business and its family and its sister companies, what is really clear is how important engaging utilities providers in certain locations can be to actually structure circularity. And so what I'm really excited about is, Nicor is already doing that hard work, and then Rheaply kind of comes along and says, hey, let's make that hard work a little easier, right?
Exactly.
So I really love that, how you guys are already poised in the community and how we can kind of hopefully scale that and reduce kind of the administrative burden.
Exactly, and as a utility, we rely on the innovations in startups to be able to, pull in that innovation to enhance our core business. So that's what those partnerships are all about. As a utility, of course, like we don't, we're not going to create a platform to be able to do that. We rely on those partnerships and that fast-paced innovation. So
awesome. And then when you think of it from a United Way Metro Chicago perspective, and again, thinking about community engagement, can you talk about some of the needs of the communities that you're serving right now, how that intersects with, what potentially Rheaply could help you all with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pandemic really highlighted the need in a lot of the disinvested communities that we're working in. And so the needs are myriad. Our neighbors are struggling every day. But we, what United Way does is mostly work directly with these nonprofit partners that are on the ground serving our community and serving our neighbors. And to be a nonprofit is also just to operate on a shoestring budget most of the time. And so any kind of donated items can make a big difference to an organization that may not have, that is focusing their funding and their resources in the community where it's most needed and may do without with some other things. So it can make a big difference to nonprofits.
Absolutely. And that actually makes me think of like how changing the pandemic / COVID and the quarantine were for really all of us, but especially for a utilities business like Nicor and where it's situated and what people are expecting, and from the kind of left behind, disinvested parts of our community. And so I would love to hear kind of from your perspective, and we definitely know that we're still trying to fight out our way through COVID right now, but in those early days, back in 2020, what were your organizations and your people kind of faced with, and what were some of the things that you all did to kind of continue to help serve your communities?
Yeah, do you want to go first, or
would you want to talk about the CCRF?
I think you probably you've been around a little bit longer than me. Know the CCRF a little bit more.
Roy started during the pandemic.
Welcome,
so I
Roy.
remember that.
So that was
you
partly what's
weren't there
new.
at the launch.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic first struck, what United Way did is we saw that there was a lot of people hurting, a lot of jobs were lost. A lot of our neighbors in our communities are working in those frontline jobs. And just that the need became really exacerbated. And so our team was able to respond really quickly to establish the Chicago COVID Community Response Fund in partnership with Chicago Community Trust. And I think the team turned it around within like a week. Really impressive and fast. It wasn't me, but my team. It was really, really impressive and fast at launching this this new fund to get funds out to our community. And I should know the total number of dollars raised, but we had a really generous outpouring of support from individuals and partners across the community to help get money to where it was needed right away to our community partners. So we were thrilled to be able to launch that so quickly and to be able to sustain some partners through that support.
I think I've never seen such a need and just hitting it on the mark of during COVID and some of the big nonprofits here in Chicago, including United Way, that really turned on the afterburner, stepped up to really help the people who were very vulnerable to quite frankly, to the virus because of their jobs or because of their current health situations. Mina, can you talk a little bit about COVID and what that meant, not just for the Nicor business, but also the expectations of the community of what you guys should be doing?
Absolutely. First, I just have to say, echo that the work that United Way done and all the nonprofit partners was incredible because we saw firsthand. And in the utility business, we never stopped. And I think the people really realized the great need and role that energy plays. All of a sudden, many people were in their homes all day. That was their school. That was their workplace. That was their vacation place. And the one thing that they all needed was energy to keep all of that sustaining. And, at Nicor Gas, we're a part of the Southern Company family of companies, so that's electric and gas utilities. And we had to really quickly pivot and figure out how do we keep providing this service, because we go into homes. And so very quickly we needed to figure out what is the safety protocol? How do we keep our people safe? How do we manage all of this? The people who could work from home were safely at home, but half of our employee base was still out going to homes, making visits, doing the job. So our supply chain teams and facility teams were amazing in very quickly trying to figure out, okay, what is the protective gear that they're going to need, even before there was guidance out, that week in March, figuring out, okay, we're going to need masks, we need hazmat suits, we need goggles, we need gloves. And what we saw in the community was not just the challenges in supply chain and the stress of we can't find Clorox wipes and we can't find that stuff, but incredible creativity in the community. We deliver natural gas to customers that, for example, produce alcohol. They make, vodka, and they quickly pivoted their businesses
Incredible.
to make hand sanitizer, you know, and so we were able to partner with these businesses in really unique ways. They found ways to keep their businesses running and their people employed while still supporting this great need in the region, and we got to see that firsthand and be a part of facilitating that.
I love all that because it speaks to, you know, one of my central thesis about circular economy, which is really it's economy that's handshakes. There's not just a supplier relationship to a business. Like, we're in a community together. We live in the same places.
That's right.
Our businesses operate in the same places. And as soon as there's a challenge like COVID or like a market downturn, we find ourselves looking at our neighbors and saying, hey, how can I help you more?
Yeah.
Because if you're healthy, and if you're healthy, then I'm healthy, right? And so I really love how, even though we're talking about a nonprofit and we're talking about a utilities company, how there's similar activity that you had to think through about how do we help our communities in the ways that they uniquely need help right now, and then kind of run these kind of, you know, new campaigns, think about how are we sourcing, you know, PPE efficiently for our employees and our customers, like just really interesting stuff. And I wonder, like, as we kind of hopefully move into the last of chapters of COVID, are there learnings about how you had to engage that community or how you had to do that fundraising for your community? Like, are there learnings that come from that that unfortunate experiment of COVID that you're like, oh, that's a better way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it, you know, we do so much relationship building in our business with our customers, with our communities. That stuff is hard to measure. You know, it's hard to put a value on.
Doesn't show up in the spreadsheet.
It doesn't show up in the spreadsheet. You know, you go try to set budgets and it's sort of like you can't tie it to margin or anything. And I think after COVID, we realized the relationships we had and the ones we needed.
Right.
And everyone understood the value, even though it was still difficult to measure, right? So I think that is definitely, you know, one of the big learnings. For us, we were really fortunate to have steadfast leadership across Southern Company too, and a very consistent message across the business that really provided comfort and confidence for people too. So I think there were lessons in that from an engagement perspective, because at that point, that's really what our team needed, was to know that they were protected and that, you know, we had a job to do, because we're fine and other people need help right now, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and I wonder the same thing from United Way Metro Chicago's perspective. Are there things that you had to institute in the kind of initial phases of COVID that you're like, oh, that's a better way of doing things?
Yeah, I think the theme that comes to mind for me is around like innovation, innovating and iterating. That this was a new situation for all of us. None of us knew what we were doing. None of us experienced this quite like this before. So we had to just try things.
Yes.
And as we tried things, we absolutely found ways that worked better and ways to iterate on that. And we've been, I think, trying to maintain that, building on that iterative kind of momentum ever since. So just even thinking about our CCRF fund, our Chicago Community, I never say it right, I'm sorry. Chicago Community Response Fund. But even thinking about that, we were doing grant making differently than how we'd done it in the past, and we talked to our partners about how we can improve on this and how we can get resources out faster. And so definitely learned things through that process. And again, the innovation is an important part of how we keep moving forward into this new sort of unknown future as well. So trying to hold on to that.
I think one of the things from a Rheaply perspective that we learned, again, we started Rheaply in the lab thinking about research materials, you know, was, Mayor Lightfoot called on Rheaply to use our technology to construct a Chicago PPE marketplace. And this was at the height of about the summer of 2020, when you couldn't find hand sanitizer and mask at your CVS or your Walgreens or even on Amazon. There were 6 to 8 week waits because of supply chain issues. Meanwhile, just like some of your customers, there were people in Chicago making face masks, making hand sanitizers, but no one knew about them. So we created a digital storefront that if you were a Chicago business owner and you were making PPE, we then connected you with small businesses and nonprofits who needed that PPE for safe reopen because the city had passed an ordinance that required folks to have that on hand. And, I think in 60 days, we did something like 200,000 transactions.
Wow.
And
That's
it really
incredible.
showed
Yeah.
the power for us about local community engagement. So if we have folks who have, right, with folks who need, the actually the hyper localness of connecting those folks actually showed us how important the work that we're trying to do at a larger scale in circular economy actually is, and we wanted to really dive into that as an afterthought. And so a little bit of that is we actually structured a whole ecosystem team. And that ecosystem team really goes off and makes partnerships with our nonprofit folks, recyclers, and who are in the community.
Right.
To say, so when we're partnering with Nicor to help them with their own reuse and circular economy opportunities, when they're no longer needing those items, they can flow into United Way's Metro Chicago type organizations in a way that's very similar to the kind of PPE use case that we did 2 years ago. And so we've also learned that lesson of like how important it is to engage at the community level, because folks like Nicor really want to engage their community partners.
That was amazing to us. So we decided to try out the platform, and we were having the conversations with the Rheaply team of, well, what do we put on it? What's
Yes.
surplus that we want to get
Yes.
started with, and
Yes.
we need something just to start it with. And talking to our warehouse team, they did a really, really good job being creative during COVID, because we had excessive amounts of PPE that we, over time we figured out for example, the goggles aren't the style
Right.
that our teams prefer, but we just have excess of them. Or we have gloves for 10 years, so we're good on gloves, okay? And hand sanitizer, some of it actually has an expiration date, so while we can keep enough, we just know we can't use it all in that time. And with some of these, take hand sanitizer for example, you actually incur dumping fees. So if you have
Absolutely.
to move that out of your storage and you have to take it to a landfill,
Probably hazardous. as well.
hazardous,
Yes,
exactly. So not only is there, obviously the greenhouse gas emissions associated with by dumping something in a
Right.
landfill, but on top of it, we incur costs in being able to dump all of that. So the team got really excited that this was a natural first try, but we were like, well, who the heck, now we'll really see how the platform works, because who the heck's gonna, need all of this PPE? And I think it was a matter of days before we were connected with the United Way agencies that could really use that stuff. So it was a testament to community, right? The ecosystem, because we could not have done that on our own, not as easily. It would have been clunky and taken a long time and been very resource heavy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure and I wonder if you're seeing this in your work, Caitlin and Roy, but for sure one of the things that a lot of people have been writing about is the need for digitization for small businesses and nonprofits moving forward. And we learned that lesson in COVID, hey, once people can't go and have in-person meetings, and once you can't fly somewhere, it turns out we don't know about people who we live next to, who we literally live next to.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can talk about some of the things that you see in your communities that you serve from a digitization perspective, and because I know you talked about innovation, is that a continued need of getting people online, getting people connected?
Yeah, well, first I just wanted to compliment Mina. We really appreciate that we were able to be part of that ecosystem with you all, and we were able to get this out to our partners.
Yes.
We kind of put a call out to our partners, and we got a lot of hands raised that yes, this is absolutely
Amazing.
something that can be helpful. So we were thrilled to be a part of that. I guess the and Roy, feel free to chime in if you have other thoughts here as well. The digitization. I mean, I think it speaks to the same being a nonprofit and what it means to be a nonprofit, and how you just have to kind of do things the way you can do them sometimes, and sometimes the move forward into something that may be a cost investment, it can be difficult to do when you don't have the cost to invest in it. And so I think the digitization of a platform like Rheaply's for helping United Way, especially get things to our community partners, is just a huge benefit. It makes everything so much easier, and we're able to get things in front of partners much quicker and facilitate this reuse so much easier. So I guess it speaks to kind of the scarcity that the nonprofits have to operate under sometimes, and how a platform like this can really help fill in that gap.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's a lot of, bang for your buck going on with smaller nonprofits, especially some of the more grassroots community-based ones that we work with. And I think that having something like Rheaply really benefits them because, like we've already talked about, like there was that need, there was that digital divide gap that existed very much at the beginning of the pandemic and still exists largely to this day. But we've seen through our neighborhood network model that a lot of improvements in connecting people to internet service providers and being able to bring them online. And then something like Rheaply would just be multiply the benefit there because it's a platform for them to be able to continue to, on their shoestring budget, make use of every possible resource that they can get their hands on.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that like demand side is so really interesting because, again, you connect, in this case, Nicor, you get connected beyond energy usage. And I think that provides that kind of multifaceted value proposition for Nicor.
Absolutely. It's really trying to understand, okay, energy is the foundation,
Right.
but what are the other building blocks? And that's why we're investing so much in, digitalization, economic development, like, obviously our sustainability, because that's core to our business. It's because it being a part of an ecosystem can't just be one thing, right? It's the whole package. And I think what we also saw during COVID is, while it was exposed, that digital divide, it also sort of spurred that access, right? Because now we see incredible investment like Illinois Broadband for All and different funding resources that are really focused on hitting those weak spots that were exposed during the pandemic, which is going to mean that we can be even more effective in digital reach as we move forward, or at least that's the hope here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, I think one of the things that we all see coming that we really hope doesn't come is how does climate, the climate crisis really highlight potentially some of the fissures that we discovered in COVID, as we see people in Texas right now suffering from the heat waves, those heat waves are only going to come more north. I think these types of relationships that were born out of COVID that are hopefully being further enshrined and kind of scaled through Rheaply's technology are there for the new normal that we might have to face, which is more, climate effects on some of the communities that we all know and love and are trying to support. So curious about the kind of short term, now, but kind of future, what can Rheaply do to kind of help, drive out more value that you guys are seeking, but also help your communities?
Yeah, well, we're, like I mentioned, we're really excited, and we have to kind of walk before we can run,
Right.
Which is what we're doing now. But I think, right now we're piloting and really looking at, how we engage with the platform, how we engage with the existing Rheaply community. I think long term, we definitely, we are working on bringing a number of solutions to customers because we have a trusted relationship with us. They turn to us for sustainability solutions to understand how they can better address their own, net zero goals in their businesses. And so definitely, we see circularity being a part of that package and something that we can support. I mean, if you even look sort of pie in the sky and we think about, for example, renewable natural gas, it's made from organic material. It takes huge volumes of that organic material to be able to produce cost effectively this renewable natural gas. And so, when you think about a platform that creates an ecosystem, we even think, oh, wow, like could we create a marketplace for organic material where we can, create a little economy for folks that are currently dumping their stuff in Indiana because there's nowhere else to take it, where they could connect it to a local producer, and then we're creating this domestic, reliable, resilient, clean energy product. So really, when you think about the power of the platform, I do think that we can get really creative, and the
Yes.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and I wonder how you see all that, kind of both short-term and long-term. What can Rheaply do for you in the communities that you all serve?
Yeah, I mean, I think short term, just like the speed and the agility with which the platform can facilitate these exchanges is huge. It enables us to, again, it takes away a lot of the clunky back and forth and just makes it a smooth, streamlined process. And so short term, just being able to reuse some of the materials is huge. And I think long term, I mean, I think when I think about climate change, what I think about is that those who are doing the most damage to the system are not the ones who are going to be hit first. It's those without. It's the communities that have been disinvested for a long time in different nations across our world. They're the ones who are going to be hit first and hit hardest. And so, part of what United Way's work is going in and trying to build resiliency in thriving communities. We've talked a lot about ecosystems and communities, and what I love about just this relationship that we're all forming here right now is that it is just this, it's a paradigm of a community.
Right.
It's everyone working together and contributing in what we have and what we need. And so I think because we're trying to go in and build thriving communities now, our hope is that Rheaply's work can continue to help us with facilitating that and continuing to hopefully buffering some of the inevitable effects of climate change on these communities that have always been hit hardest.
I love both these things, and will for sure be hard at work at doing both of them, and more, because I think, and whether it's us, I always say I want more competitors. Whether it's us or someone else, I think it's so important that we intentionally think about this reverse supply chain.
Yes.
Right, the world is very good. Amazon has made us very good at getting things in 2 days. But what happens when we're done with something, right? And if we can't answer that question, then we have no hope in beating back the climate scenarios in 2040 or 50. But we also have really no hope in really helping the communities that are going to be initially affected by those scenarios as well.
Right.
And so it kind of solves both these two things. And again, a healthier community means a healthier place to do business.
That's right.
And so none of our businesses can survive unless we're all a strong ecosystem. I did want to give, another spot and talk a little bit about what this month means for United Way and Nicor. So if you can just double back on kind of what you all are doing and announcing this month.
Yes. So we're really excited that June of every year is our internal campaign month across Southern Company Gas. So, across our parent company, we're all, ardent supporters of United Way and in the communities that we serve, that we're privileged to serve. And so this year we have a theme, Totally Committed. And we're really looking across the month at all kinds of engagement activities and ways that employees can understand the great support that United Way provides in the communities that we serve. And then, we ask them to consider giving very generously. So, we partner throughout the year on a lot of things, but this month is a month that we really highlight that as being sort of core to our culture, our partnership with United Way. So lots of activities, associated with that we're super thankful that the United Way team has participated. And as I mentioned, our CEO, Wendell Dallas, who is, a 30-plus year supporter of United Way, although new to Nicor, not new to United Way, he has graciously taken on the Chicago Metro campaign chair role for 22 and 23. And so we couldn't be more excited to support him in that leadership role and really seeing, what we can do in community and getting corporate partners together and doing what we can to support United Way.
Amazing.
Yeah. I can attest that Nicor Gas and Nicor Gas employees do give very generously. I know I say it all the time that it almost sounds like a cliche at this point, but really every dollar does count. And having such an incredible partner like Nicor Gas that makes that giving back to community, that creating that ecosystem together and fostering it, having that be part of your culture is so amazing. And really, I try to connect the dots for people who give to United Way as much as I possibly can. And being able to have a local company like Nicor Gas give dollars locally makes an impact locally. That sounds like I'm repeating myself and being redundant, but it really does make a huge difference to people that might be your next door neighbor and you just don't realize that they need that help.
Right.
So we really appreciate having Nicor Gas dedicate a whole month to philanthropy, to giving back to community, and everyone at Nicor Gas that gives their time, their resources, and their generosity towards our cause and our mission.
Thank you so much. And it really does build on this whole theme of circularity, right? Because it's all about neighbors helping neighbors, communities helping
Value
communities.
transfer.
That's right. And lifting up together. So I love that now that we've gone deep and kind of talked about Rheaply and our partnership, like you can really start to see those themes sort of in all of the ways that we engage.
I mean, one of the themes for me from COVID is we can't alone.
Yeah.
Right. It really showed us like, hey, I actually can't just put my mask on, be safe. You have to put your mask on too.
Yeah.
Right. And that really showed us how important it is that we have to like lift all our boats to kind of move forward. Any parting words for your peers, whether it be kind of in a nonprofit space or in the utility space, as they're thinking about, nouveau, innovative ways to connect community or connect to organizations, leading organizations in their cities? Can you give them any advice, Rheaply wise or just in general about this type of project?
Yeah, I would just say that, the local climate tech economy is amazing. And I think we look for, industries overall look for silver bullets and, the things that are going to move the big rocks. And I think, part of what we learned is partnering with really innovative companies like Rheaply. It grows our economy. It supports our thriving local climate tech economy. It gives us access to innovation that we're not agile enough to do on our own. And so I think it's, my parting thoughts to peers would be don't forget those smaller opportunities. We're all tackling the big stuff. There's so much opportunity right in front of us for the small stuff. Yeah.
Any thoughts from you all as you think about, your peers and the nonprofit space and how they can engage either with Rheaply or just kind of this kind of whole circular economy model?
Yeah, I think, our core business is around, like we said, investing in communities. And we see this as just a great additional value add that helps us work and think about sustainability in a new way. So not necessarily something that we would have thought would have been a place where we would be, but so thrilled to be here and be part of this, helping with the circularity and helping with the reuse. So just happy to take advantage of the partnership.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the spirit of this being called in the lab, right, it's all about experimenting. And I think, let's start experimenting and figuring out how do we extract more community, how we extract more value transfer and value share before we have a COVID-like climate event where we're all back on our heels and, kind of making things up as we go along.
That's right.
But one, thank you all for the work that you do. I'm super excited to work with you all. I'm very excited about the relationship with Southern and Nicor that Rheaply has. But thank you all for who you all are in our community and in your companies and organizations. Any parting words as we leave?
Just thank you for the partnership. You for your leadership and the Rheaply team that's just amazing to work with. So thank you.
Yes, thank you from our end as well. We've been thrilled to be able to start working with you all and thrilled for our continued partnership with Nicor and everything you're doing to support our neighbors.
I'm excited. I assume in several months we'll have a rehash of this conversation. There'll be even more people at the table, which is the entire part. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, well, thanks for coming to Rheaply.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And cut.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
All right.
That was
High
a
fives
fun
across the table, too.
conversation.
That was
Fun
fantastic.
conversation.
Yeah.